You can start in 10 seconds. I'm going mute. Good luck, man.
Thank you. So hello everyone, thank you here for joining. So today I'll be presenting a tool which I named it as Docker ENT, and that tool is more of a framework that you can use to analyze security issues inside your running containers. And the kind of tool or the framework that I've built in can be used to actually test the production containers, and it will not affect their capabilities at all. So this is how the tool has been designed right now. And the way the framework has been designed, it's like you can use it, you can augment the framework to create your own plugins so that you can leverage more of this particular framework. So today I'll be covering about how I have written this tool, how you can use this tool in your environment, how you can use this tool in Docker pentest kind of environment, so that your repetitive tasks can be eliminated, and you can get the reporting in a better way. So let's get started. So in today's presentation, I have a few segments that I'll be talking about. So first, I'll do a brief of who I am. Then I'll start with my tool, like a very quick overview of what that tool is and how do we need it. And I'll also compare this particular tool with the existing tools that we have, and I'll use Docker Bench as a comparison parameter. So after that, I'll talk about the kind of checks which are already in this tool right now and how you can leverage those checks to audit your Docker infrastructure. After that, I'll go into the technicalities of how you can create your own plugins. And when I say your own plugins, how you can create your own automated task into Python code, and you can leverage the framework so that you don't have to do the same thing again and again. Once that is over, I'll give you a short demonstration of the tool by providing you the capabilities of the tool. The tool can be used in the command line interface and in the UI interface as well. Once that is over, I'll give you an idea what we can have this tool in the future work. And at the end of the day, I'll take your question answers, and I'll be happy to answer the questions that you have. So let's get started. So yeah, I'm a security engineer with around 4 years of professional experience, and I am a master's degree holder from IIT Kanpur. The time I was in IIT, I started doing the bug bounty and bug hunting, but then I moved onto the other side of the table. Right now, I'm actually in the blue teaming side, if you can call me. I try to secure applications instead of cracking them, but I do them by cracking the application. So let's say there is an application I want to secure. I'll just crack that application first. After cracking, I'll just note down this can be cracked in this particular way, and then secure it. So yeah. That's more of a blue teaming approach that I use. I hold a OACP certificate, and I'm into penetration testing, source code review, design reviews, and all those things. Yeah, but my bread and butter is development. I do open source development for a lot of things. So here I've listed few of my very popular open source projects. You can check out those projects in my GitHub link. I'll just share the GitHub link in my in the deck itself. And yeah, that's all about me that I have. So this is my GitHub handle, this is my LinkedIn if you want to connect with me over LinkedIn, and this is my Twitter. I'm not very much active on Twitter, but yeah, that's the good platform to communicate with the team. So yeah, I'm getting some popularity over there. And if you're curious to know more about me, you can check out my website. It's actually updated, so you can check it out and let me know if you have any feedback or anything that you want to know from my side. So let's get started about the tool. So first of all, this is a tool come framework. So Docker ENT came into my mind when I was doing a penetration testing of a Docker container which was running in a QA environment. The thing was, the things became repetitive after some time, because I had to test few of the parameters. All the time I had to just check a particular container for these specific parameters, and after some time the things became repetitive. So I thought of writing a script, but then I realized script is okay, but let's say the same problem is being faced by a lot of people in the community out there. So I thought of creating this tool into a framework where in the tooling side of it, I'll provide you a few set of plugins which are already there, which are actually necessary to test your container against. And then in the plugin, in the framework side, you can write your own plugin. So let's say if your organization has custom Docker login mechanisms, so you can use those plugins to get into it. So if you see, this is a framework which is written in Python. I have designed it in a way that everything is already in place. What you have to do is you just have to create your own plugin and plug in a specific directory in a specific format. So once you have it there, eh, that's it, bingo. I mean, you can use the plugin in the UI itself within few clicks. And yeah, so Docker ENT performs the task of scanning security related misconfiguration inside the Docker. So those security related misconfigurations can be like you might be running a privileged container inside the Docker, or like you are actually putting your source code inside the Docker itself. So if I take the example of a Java application, so you have your Spring Boot application, you have your configuration parameters in there, and they are pretty sensitive configuration parameters. Then you have those configuration parameters bundled inside the jar, and then you're building that jar inside the Docker itself, which is a security. It's non-compliant security, right? So you can this tool can identify those kind of issues as well. So it can identify Docker level security misconfiguration, namespace level misconfigurations, and check. Once those check has been identified, it will audit the result, and everything at the end of the day is customizable. So even the audit results can be customized. You can have it right now in the tooling side. If you see, the audit results come as a part of a JSON entity, but you can customize it to get it in a proper reporting format that is compatible with your organization or your security assessment pipeline or all the things. The tool also has been designed in a way that it is very much DevSecOps friendly. So let's say if you want to integrate this particular tool with CI/CD pipeline, so this tool has those capabilities in there. And yes, there is a fully functional web application with a fully functional CLI. But I would say CLI is more powerful as compared to web application right now in current stage, because I'm not at all into web application development. But yes, I have leveraged a very popular open source tool called as Streamlit to create a web application. The main issue with that web application is that all the process execution happens in one particular process. Whereas in CLI, you can specify the number of parallel processes that you want to run. So in CLI, the default parameters for number of processes is 2, for web application is 1. But that is again customizable for CLI. But for web application, I was facing some issues. So I was not able to roll that particular thing out as a release in the open source community. Now, one more special thing about Docker ENT is that if you see, Docker ENT can also audit your Kubernetes or Swarm cluster. The reason I'm saying this is because at the end of the day, even those clusters are fine-grained to Docker level checks itself. So at the end of the day, Kubernetes is also running a Docker, right? So you can have the checks for your Kubernetes, and you can have checks for your Swarm cluster as well. And this framework is very much similar to Docker Bench, but it is doing something on top of it. I'll just talk about the comparison between the two tools in my next slide. Let's go to that. Okay, so Docker Bench is a tool which performs static analysis of your Docker. So it performs some runtime checks also, but every check is actually aligned with the CIS benchmark. So if you see, if I just say this, I just draw a Venn diagram of all of both of the tools, ENT and Bench, then you will see there is some sort of overlap which is happening. And there are some critical points which segregate the usability of those tools. So if you see, ENT can perform container level internal checks. I'll talk about that internal checks in a moment. But Benchmark can identify host level hardening checks, which is not at all into the scope of ENT, because ENT has been designed, it's a runtime configuration analysis tool rather than a hardening identification from the host perspective. So yeah, Bench, this is the major idea of the differences. But if you see, runtime checks can contain host level hardening checks. So that's why there is some sort of overlapping happening between the tools. But yeah, they are definitely segregated in the usability perspective. Now, Docker Bench completely focuses about the CIS benchmark. It performs container level and host level checks, and it's just a script that is run and then gives you output in console itself. But the thing is, for reporting, let's say you want to present your analysis to the stakeholder or the ops team or the devs team, then reporting is not fluid with Docker Bench. You will have to write your own custom tools, custom scripts to create the console output to logs. So that is not possible with Docker Bench. And yeah, reporting is seriously a headache. I've used Docker Bench. The results are promising, but the thing is, like, reporting is pain. On the other hand, if you see, it performs my tool, which I'm proposing right today. It performs container level running checks. It can perform checks which are there in benchmarks as well, and you can go into the plugin side. I mean, you can go into the plugin source code and see what sort of container benchmark level checks are also there. So it can perform also that. And it's the main thing that make ENT special from bench is that in ENT you can write, or there are tools, there are plugins already in there which can actually go inside the Docker and can check if there is a misconfiguration happening inside the Docker. And a very simple example that I just talked in my previous slide, that was when you are building the Spring Boot application in the container itself. So basically your source code lies in the container, and by mistake you have put your configuration file with sensitive data in the container itself. So ENT can identify those checks. So if you see, I won't compare the tools as it is, but yeah, there is some sort of, there is some power with ENT which is not with bench. So ENT is very much flexible in with respect to bench. So that's a very brief points of differentiating between the two tools. Yeah, yeah, and yeah, that's the main check that is being performed for ENT and benchmark. Yes, that's what I talked about. Now, so since I said I made this tool a very much in a way that it is friendly to the developers, it is friendly to the ops team. So the main point was to identify what are the challenges the team faces. So definitely deployment, hosting, and running the tool is the main challenge. The main challenge that we have is like using this any tool in any environment is that, like, deployment and then creating a report out of it. So this Docker ENT has been designed by keeping all those things in mind, because I'm a developer. I know the pain point of rolling this tool to production and analyzing the changes in there. So Docker ENT has been designed keeping all those things in mind. Now there are two ways of actually quickly starting this Docker ENT in any environment that you want. So the two ways, one way is like installing through pip or running it from source. So pip, like whenever there is a release, I create a bundle of that particular code and push it to pip. But yeah, from source, from tooling's perspective, you will find a lot of new plugins which might not there be in pip package. But yeah, so that is the case. So with pip, it is extremely simple to install. You just have to run pip install Docker ENT, and then once you have done that, you can simply run the Docker ENT -w. So once you do that, it will spin up a web application for you, and you can access that web application over the internet as well. So that's the beauty of it. And if you are stuck anywhere with the tool, just do Docker ENT -help, and it will give you a lot of options which are there in Docker ENT, and then you can see what sort of plugins you can use, how you can scan only Dockers right now, or you just want to scan a specific Docker instead of all the Dockers which are in their system right now. So that is there. Or if you are interested in the latest plugins which are being actively developed, you can clone the repo. Once clone, I mean, you just have to run make deps. Make dep will download all the dependencies which are required for Docker ENT, and then just run make venv. Make env will create a Python virtual environment for you, and once you have that, just activate the virtual environment and go inside run it as a simple Python module. So you can run it through like Python -m Docker ENT -help. So the same way that is possible. Now Docker ENT comes in two ways. I'll again say -w triggers the Docker ENT web application. I'll show in the demo, and I have a demo for CLI application as well, which I'll be sharing with you as in an upcoming slide. So that defines how easy Docker ENT is, so that you can quickly set it up. There is no need to set up actually. You can simply clone the source, run it, or if you're curious, if you don't want to clone the source, you want to simply just run few checks, you can simply download the Docker ENT from the pip and quickly run it. So yeah, that's the simplicity of this particular tool. Now let's talk about a few of the checks which are already in this tool right now. I'm not talking about from the framework's perspective, but from the tool's perspective. There is a difference, because frameworks give you a model. what you have to do is you have to just have to use that mod, extend that particular model, create your own tools out of it, or create your own plugins out of it. So when I say there are few checks already in Docker ENT, so those checks are from the Docker ENT tools perspective. So these are the checks which are already in there. I'll explain about the checks in this particular slide, but I'll give a very brief introduction of that. If you want to see what a check does, you can simply go to the repo and you can see in the in the repo I have mentioned in detail like what checks are there, if the check is performing any audit result or not, and all those things. So these are the set of checks which are there. And definitely for the latest check, you can definitely go inside the plugin feature in Docker ENT in the same GitHub repo. So these are the checks which are already in there right now. So I've not segregated the checks on the basis of container internals or container configuration specific, but yeah, these are all the checks. If you see the files, so file will take you to the plugin of the Docker entity. So if you see there is command history plugin, file system info plugin, network information plugin, plain text password plugin, security profiles plugin, user info, system info, and files info plugin. So if you see, at times I have seen in my penetration testing time that developers, what they do is they deploy Dockers. That is perfectly fine. But after deployment also, they go inside the Docker and run some sort of sensitive commands. And they run those sensitive commands through, let's say, a privileged shell. So this command history plugins actually helps you identify if there is any history, shell history, or the root history which is in there. So I'll give you a very simple example for why the intuition for this particular plugin came into my mind. So this happened to me while I was analyzing a Docker, and that particular Docker, the command was saved, and the developer was passing the command as like that was a MySQL client which was connecting to MySQL server, and the developer was passing the command MySQL server password in the command line itself. So that was revealing the sensitive information. So these kind of mistakes are definitely are there in production because developers always try to find simpler ways of getting things done. So that was the main intention of writing this tool, right? So this command history can identify the shell, and file system can identify the read-write file system. Now, at times I have seen where developers are mounting during the production deployment, and I'm not joking, developers are mounting a volume, and they're mounting a volume in a way that even a Docker can write, even if there is no need for writing, but they can write to those mounts as well. So file system information can give you an identification, can give you the ID of the files which are root writable, read writable, all those kind of things. Network state can give you the identification of network state and what sort of mapping is there in the ports. This is actually a critical information from firewall and WAF perspective. So this is it. And you can go through all those features which are there for particular plugins. But if you see on the rightmost side of every plugin, you will see the audit. So audit tells you about like audit, if the audit field is present, or if says it no audit, it means that there is no auditing written for that particular tool. So basically you have to dig into the information returned by the system info plugin rather than the audit plugin. So I'll explain you what are the different outputs which are coming through Docker end. So yeah, just stay with me. I'll show everything in the demonstration side. So this is just a quick overview what sort of plugins already exist in this tool and how you can write your own custom plugins. Okay. So next, I'll get in the technical details how you can write your own plugins because that's the only thing that makes this tool different from the other existing tools. And when I say write your own tools, I'll explain in a go. So this is how a plugin code looks like. Don't get afraid of looking at the Python. This is a simple Python code. If you see, every plugin will have a scan function in here, and the scan function will take a container instance, output queue where it will put the data, an audit queue, and audit enabled or not. So right now, if you see by default, the audits are disabled for all the plugins, and there is no audit queue. But that depends on how you are calling this particular scan. This is the signature of that particular. If you have to write your own plugin, just have to follow this particular signature. And on the top of it, you can just give the plugin name. So I've used the plugin name as demo plugin. So this is how it looks. Then there is a log, then there is a result. Now every plugin should respond in this particular way. If you can see this result dictionary in Python, every plugin should respond in this particular way. If it doesn't respond in this particular way, the framework will not be able to pick the beauty of your plugin. So you have to just write your plugin in this particular way. And this particular plugin says the result is such a way that there was a test class which was performing this particular test with the test name, and everything looks good in that test. And so that just has to be a list. So just give the name of the test class, the test that you are performing, and the results of that particular test. That's it. That this is what it looks. Now it's completely on to you how you process that particular container for the particular scan and all those things. So that's why I've written do something magical here. Once that is done, you just put the result into the output queue, which is being given as input. You just don't worry about the data type which is being passed. Just put the results in the output queue. And if the auditing is enabled, what you have to do is you will just put the same container with the audit results and with the audit queue, and just call that function. So basically, if the auditing is enabled, you will have to write one more function, which is audit function. If you can see, this one is the audit function. So this is the signature of the audit function. Now in the signature, that's up to you how you interpret those results out. So for getting the check of getting the idea how I have written audits, you can go into the repo and you can identify how I've written audits. So the way I've written audits is very simple. I've leveraged the dictionary matching algorithm. Like this is how the normal Docker should look like for this. If I talk about the security profile, so this is how the security profile should look like, and this is how your Docker is responding with these security profiles. And I'm just doing a very simple match of two dictionaries. So this is how I have written it, but that's completely up to you. How do you want to write it? So yeah, that's into the like writing your own plugin. So it may seem complicated, but at the end of the day, it's very simple, because what you have to do is you just have to do some name changes. So you have to change something here, you have to change something here, and then you have to write your own magical stuff that you want to perform. So with this, you can go inside the container also. So you can invoke Docker Python APIs or Python bindings to just get inside the container, execute few commands, get the result, and put in there. So definitely taking a reference from existing plugin will definitely help you out writing your own plugin. So that is the case. And I have recorded a very simple video of how you can create your own plugins, and you can just go into this video and you can follow this article to write your own plugins. Also, the article talks about this video. This is an Ask Anima video. This also talks about how you can deploy the same infrastructure quickly without anything else. So yeah, this Ask Anima video will definitely help you out in that case. Oops, sorry for that. Yeah, so let's go to the demonstration. I'll reshare my screen. Okay, so if you can see, I have already started the Docker ENT in web application mode. And once you start the Docker ENT in web application mode, you can see that it will show you that starting web application, and then it will give you local URL and will start running on 8501 port. It's up to you that which port you want to run in. So the Streamlit offers it to run in 8501 port. So it will be by default running in this particular port, and it will also offer the network interface to be working with it. So once you run this particular Ent application and go to this UI will pop up. So I just start the UI. And the UI is very simple. There is not much information you can see, but here you can see like about what this tool does, how you can operate this particular tool. So if you go to the second segment, you will see to get started, go to the sidebar. In the sidebar, you will see there are two options: Scan Docker and Scan Docker Networks. Scan Docker Networks is in pipeline. It is not rolled out as a tool feature right now, but yeah, I'm working on this. Like what sort of network plugins could be there. The model pipeline is ready, but the model plugins are not ready. So it will be really great if you can come up with your own ideas and can create pull request for Docker ENT network plugins. So that's the area I'm looking help for now. But it's very simple. Just click that you want to scan Dockers. If you scan Docker networks, that's all well and good. It will just create another pop-up here. But right now, I don't want to scan Dockers at all. Now it will ask you, like, you can pick a single Docker or you can pick all the Dockers to start. So it will give you the Dockers are running in your system right now. So these are the Docker system which are running in my system right now, which in my host system. Let's say if I just select all, like I want to run all the Docker, but it will take some time. So okay, let's go ahead with all. Now these are the set of plugins which are already there. And what you can do is you can select multiple plugins, like you want to select these plugins, or what you can do is you can select all the plugins you want to evaluate. Once you do that, it will ask you that you want to audit results or not. So once you have that, like let's say I want to audit result, I'll just click inside and I'll just press start. Now it will take its own sweet time because it will perform a lot of checks and you can track the progress in the progress bar section. Don't judge me by the UI. The UIs I know is not that great because I'm not a UI person at all. So thanks to the Streamlit team, they have created a very simple Pythonic way of creating UI. So yeah, that's thanks to them. Now scan is being happening. You will see that it's scanning and it's only performing the scan for Dockers. Once the scan is complete, which is going to happen in a few seconds, let me count 3, 2, 1, 0. Yeah, the scan is complete. So once the scan is complete, it will create this simpler dictionaries for you, and I'll explain those dictionaries for you. So see, if you can see here, these are the set of Dockers available in my system, and it has, since I selected all, it has scanned all the Docker by its Docker IDs. So it's called container short IDs. It has evaluated those tools. I'll just close the audit report for now. You can download the report for later purposes by clicking this button, and you can download the audit report from here. So it will just download the report in JSON format. Now I'll go through each Docker. Let's say I'll pick this particular Docker. If you go to this particular Docker, you can see there is no user command history at all. There was no history of any user command identified in this, but that's why it's coming out to be blank. But if you see, there is file info which says that there is world writable directories, and those directories can be written by root only, and these are the directories. So you can go into the file permission. You can also see the mount information which has been mount. It will include the namespace, mount namespace as well. It will also include the files or volumes which are mounted by during the operational workload. You can see, and list of mounted, there is no mount volume. It has identified passwords in config file, and these are the config file. There may be false positive because it's just doing a string literal match. I thought of incorporating entropy based password checking tool that is in pipeline. I'll do that. But yeah, you can identify, so you can check on the config files. In application properties, also identify few password. But yeah, as I said, it's just doing a literal match, so that's why it's flagged out password as well. Yeah, it has identified the shadow file is readable, and since the shadow file is readable, there is no password in shadow file. That's okay. That is okay. And if you see in the process info, I identified that there is a process running as java jar minus app.jar, and there is security SLNX security options, and those options are null, which is again an issue. And this container is privileged like false, so this is good thing. What you can do is, okay, so yeah, you can also see that the current user is running as root, which is again a big compliance issue. And you can identify the user ID also as well. So the user ID is UID 0. So these are all the things that you can do with your by identifying your tool. I just want to see if there is any because I intentionally created the history for this, right? So if you can see, I intentionally created a history inside a Docker, and it was able to identify that I tried running this ID, I tried running this exit, and I was able to see the Docker history as well in this particular report. So if you see, there are two sections. First section will give you the raw report, and that will contain the information of all the plugins that have been run and what was the result from that plugin. For to read that particular, you need to have some sort of understanding about this tool. But let's say, sorry, so let's say you don't have any information about how to read any file. So at the end of the day, it will give you an audit report. An audit report is very simple to read. It's just a list indicating a particular Docker. So like this is a Docker image, and this is just a list which is coming out. I'll read for this one. So the Docker container 2e that starts with 2e has a user command history identified. It is the plugin is saying it's a warning, and the root history present is ID followed by exit. So this is how the output of audit plugins look like, and you can go through the output of each of the audit plugins, and then it's very simple. But the main thing you have noticed that like everything is aggregated in this particular audit report, and I'll talk about the notation, how I've chosen out to like this one. I'll talk about it. So this is how the tool looks like. You can get a lot of things with this tool. If you can see, a lot of processes are running, and like this for this particular Docker, the process namespace is being mapped, and just because of that, a lot of processes are being set, which is again a security compliance issue. I mean, attacker can leverage this out. So yeah, that is the case. Let me share my screen for Docker end. Yeah, so if you see, we saw in the demo that this is how, sorry, yeah, this is how, this is how the result from audit plugins look like. So audit plugins tells you that there was a plugin name with user info, which is saying there is some alert, and alert severity is warned. And then it's giving you the description and giving you the details about those alerts. So this is how simple running Docker ENT and evaluating results is. If you have some sort of knowledge about the tool and some sort of dictionary reading skills, then you can definitely go into the raw results. But yeah, raw results are not for everyone. So for a SecOps person, you don't want to get into the technical details of the plugin, and then you don't want to get into the structural format. So you can definitely go inside and analyze the audit report. So this is how the tool looks like. And now I'll talk about a few things like what all we can incorporate in this particular tool, and we can expect this as a part of future release. So suggestions for remediation, which is not there in right now. So if you see, if you have identified few security issues with warned severity, then there are no suggestions for remediation. So that I plan to do. And then, yeah, definitely the UI is not cool. I want to make the UI better. So let's see. I need a support from you all because I'm not at all into UI side. Simplified way of plugin creation. So if you see right now, to create plugins, you have to, even the logic is very simple. You will have to sit down and write your plugins in Python file and all those things. But I want to see the vision of this tool in a way that you just select that what command you want to execute inside the container, or what are the configuration you want to analyze. You just select those kind and you create your plugins, the UI itself, instead of going into the file and then running it. So that's my vision about this particular tool. I know it will take, it's too much to think for, but yeah, at the end of the day, I'm a developer. I think I see that these things are possible, and we'll be able to achieve it. And yeah, Docker network monitoring is one more major thing that I want to incorporate in this particular entire framework. And yeah, as I mentioned, there is no parallel processing when it comes to UI. So I want to see why Streamlit is not able to incorporate that multiple processing when it comes to, yeah. So that is there already in pipeline. And I definitely, at the end of the day, I need your help to popularize tool. And the main reason for making it popular, that I'll get an attraction from the community, and the community people will come in and then help me building the best out of better. So that's what my vision is all about. Yeah, so this is what Docker ENT is, and this is the GitHub link. And if you like the tool, if you like the idea behind the tool, if you like the framework, that it is the simplicity of it, the reporting part of it, anything if you like about it, just feel free to drop in a star. That will help me gain some attraction from the community, and we know how this works. So yeah, definitely open up to that. So if there are any question for me to answer, I'll definitely answer them. So let's take them, and yep, thank you for being the part of this presentation.
Yeah, that was cool. 15 and minutes. That would be less than 40. Okay, all right.
But
Uh,
there was a glitch happened between, right? So we can definitely reduce some time.
yeah. I don't know what happened. Like, when you got out, I thought, maybe some internet glitch.
If you would not have called me, I was like kept on presenting. I was like presenting out of the flow. I didn't know that the connection got disconnected and all those things. Thanks for doing
Yeah, I
that.
mean, that's why you're using a primary monitor only, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the reason. You don't. So usually, yesterday one guy was doing using